There are tons of secrets and unknown details about the game we all have been playing for a few decades now. I can assure you that this list will contain at least one fact you didn't know about, so watch until the end and let me know down in the comments below if I was right. Let's jump straight into it with the first one. There's a secret transmog that got data mined in very early stages of BFA's alpha that most people have never heard of and was highly sought after once people discovered it, the waste of time. Some might ask themselves why this item was named the way it was, and to answer your justified question, unlike most other transmogs, this item required you to complete a whole ass book of steps in order to get it, so people went hunting. First and most important step is to unlock the Baal battle pet, which required you to go on a hunt across the entire world and click on pebbles in a specific order and solve a few more anagrams in order to call this pet your own. Second step would be to complete a random world drop questline to help out Una. Once you completed both of these tasks, the real annoying part would begin, as you would now need these items and then interact with around 30 objects spread across the entire world, and the best part is, they all had to be in that specific order, which means you would have to start at the Spires of Arak, go back to Stormwind, go back to Spires again, move over to Blade's Edge Mountains and go back to Spires Arak again, until you interacted with every required object without messing up the order. Once that's done, you would have to run around the map a few more times and then you would eventually be rewarded with the Waste of Time transmog. This whole adventure would most likely take you 3 hours, if not more, of just running around and clicking on pointless things in a specific order. And if you ever skipped a step by accident because you dozed off or something, you would have to repeat everything all over again. So what I'm trying to say is that this item has the most fitting name in probably any game out there. Warlock's development cycle is really hilarious and is complete nonsense if you really take a closer look. Warlock's icon for the Demonology spec has a Night Elf in Metamorphosis, yet Night Elves couldn't be Warlocks until Dragonflight. Additionally, they got their Metamorphosis ability removed with the release of Legion, as Blizzard gave that ability to the Demon Hunters. But that's not the only ability that got taken away from them. The Affliction icon is Death Coil from early versions of the Warlock, an ability that would heal you for the damage dealt and fear the target for a few seconds. This ability was also taken away from them and given to the Death Knights and Shadowlands. Warlocks really are like an open buffet for the other classes, and everyone can take from them whatever they want. I'd like to have the Shadow Bolt next, please. What can you see here? A plant that you can pick up if you're an herbalist, right? Okay, moving on. What's this one? Obviously the same thing. Alright, what's up with this one? If you said that this one is also a plant, you would only be partially right. You see, developers often use certain assets or textures as invisible units to program certain interactables, like in League of Legends, where a lot of things are secretly coded as minions, and in WoW it's no different. Obviously, WoW doesn't have minions like in League of Legends, but these plants and tons of other interactable items out in the world use a human head as a unit. Don't believe me? Well, if you get close to the plant, zoom in and take a closer look, you will actually spot the human head sticking out if you angle your camera right. Even though I understand why it is there, it is pretty disturbing nonetheless. Imagine someone finding this out without having the knowledge of the neat little tricks game designers use on a daily basis. I bet they would be freaked out. We all love the Warlords of Draenor cinematic, right? I mean, obviously, it's the most watched WoW video ever, right after the original Leroy Jenkins video. The main reason we all find it so cool is watching Grommash Hellscream aura farm for about 5 minutes straight. Unfortunately, we won't ever have moments like this again, as he is canonically dead. Or is he? To clarify, the version of Grommash Hellscream in Warlords of Draenor is only an alternate universe version of him. So lore-wise, he is dead, but you can summon him in the real universe and the steps to do so are pretty easy. You need to be either one of these orc races for this to work, and then all you have to do is complete the Heritage Armor questline and choose the Warsong clan by selecting the Warsong banner. The last requirement is for you to have the weapon Gorehowl, Might of the Warchief, either in your bags or equipped. Transmogging it won't work. If you don't know where to get this item, you can get it as a random drop from the time-lost battlefield fight inside the Dawn of the Infinite Mega Dungeon, which released back in Dragonflight. Once you meet all these requirements, the spirit of Grommash Hellscream occasionally spawns to salute you. And let's be honest, there's nothing cooler than to be respected by the coolest warchief that ever existed. We all know about the sad ending of old Blanchy, the white horse we first met in Westfall all the way back in Vanilla, who was killed in the Cataclysm by the Defias Brotherhood and eventually returned as a rideable mount in the Shadowlands expansion, named Dead Blanchy. He was obtainable by feeding a rare spawn in Revendreth for 6 days and was probably one of the coolest mounts in the entire expansion. Once you manage to obtain this mount, you can make your way back to where it all began for him and experience an Easter egg in Westfall. If you approach old Blanchy's dead body while mounted on Dead Blanchy, you will be immediately dismounted and the following message will appear in the chat window. Sinrunner Blanchy screams in anguish and then fades from view. I'd probably react the same way if someone showed me my 10-plus-year-old corpse. This only happens at the Westfall version of old Blanchy, as when you approach the alive old Blanchy in Grizzly Hills, nothing really happens. These small details add so much immersion to the game, but I'd still like to know how a horse ended up with the Venthyr. Maybe it was an arrogant horse. Who knows? A new secret has been discovered by people in the secret finding Discord, and it solved a mystery that's been in the game for more than a decade by now. There's a mysterious massive pearl way beyond the fatigue zone of Vashj'ir and got added back in Cataclysm. Back then, it did nothing besides stick out due to its massive size, but now people found out what it's for. It's a portal to a secret dimension. To reach this secret area, you need to swim past the fatigue waters and hope you don't die until you reach the pearl. Now once you get close to the pearl, which starts glowing more and more and eventually resembles a new moon the closer you get, you will be teleported to what seems like the seed of knowledge in the Valley of Eternal Blossoms at first. But there is a little twist. This area is full of pillars showing secrets and members of the Cabal of the Mind Seekers. All you can really do here is obtain a secret feat of strength, which awards the title Mind Seeker. To obtain it, you have to speak to Anachron in the room, and if you have met his criteria of solving all 17 puzzles, you will have additional dialogue options saying I'm ready. After a little bit of RP, you will be awarded the feat of strength Mind Seeker. The hidden criteria I'm talking about would make this video unnecessarily long, so if you want a separate video about it, let me know down in the comments below. Oh, by the way, if you want to leave this place, you can either hearth out, or if you decide to assign your hearthstone to this area so you don't have to do the whole swimming thing again, you can take one of these 3 portals that will teleport you to different zones across the entire world. You guys really love music references, so I got another one for you that most of you won't know about since it's pretty new. There's a rare mob with a really weird name in the new version of Tassavesh, which got added in the Ghosts of Karesh update in the War Within. People that played that update should already know by now that I'm talking about Chowder, with the title Escaped Auction Parcel number 8675308. This is a reference to the 1982 hit song Jenny by Tommy Two-Tone, where he sings Jenny, don't change your number 8675309, which is just one number of Chowder's title. So it's pretty safe to say that this is a reference to that song. He even has a heart-shaped ribbon on one of his tusks, which is a nice little detail. This secret is for everyone that grew up with the PlayStation 2. At Thrasher's Wharf in the Stormsong Valley zone of Kultiras, you can find 3 watchmen that are designed as a reference to your favorite characters in your favorite childhood game, Kingdom Hearts. If you love the franchise, you can instantly see this guy being Sora, her being Kairi, and this cool guy in the back being Riku. I love whenever Blizzard puts in these characters from other games without really disrupting their own world. Really makes the world feel connected in a way. Dead center in the Valley of Trials, you can find a little horde hut with 2 orcs inside. One male orc named Farmer Locklup holding a pitchfork and his wife Farmer Krella. These 2, unlike any other orcs in the game, have a very weird animation. They look very stiff in a creepy way, like they are petrified. This isn't a simple bug or oversight on Blizzard's part though. These 2 are supposed to be a reference to the popular oil painting known as American Gothic by Grant Wood. You know, the one with the farmer holding a pitchfork with his wife right besides? That one. I've been playing WoW for years and I've never seen these 2, nor have I ever heard anyone talk about them. If you didn't know about the painting, I can imagine that they might look a little silly standing there doing nothing. Now this might sound like an out-of-season April Fool's joke, but I promise you, it's real. Back in the 10.1.7 Fury Incarnate patch in Dragonflight, Blizzard added tons of new rares and mobs to fill up the new zone, and one of them was the Renegade Looter, who, if you played Fortnite for a bit, looks very familiar to the Renegade Raider. And obviously, rare mobs need special abilities to be more dangerous, right? Cranking 90s, One Pump, and Shockwave Bomb are her abilities, all referencing Fortnite in some sort of way. And if you think I'm done, think again, cause Slurp Drink, Disco Bomb, High Ground and Glug Jug are also things added with the same update. And the best part about it is, this NPC never made it to life, so we will never see how her encounter would look like. Unless the recently added Renegade Looter spell has something to do with it, because if so, we might see her very soon. I really hope she makes an appearance, as with the amounts of abilities she has, she might as well be a whole raid encounter. You guys love old WoW commercials as much as I do, and in honor of his recent passing, I will have to mention his in this episode. There's a WoW commercial featuring Chuck Norris in a very classic Chuck Norris fashion. Take a look for yourself.
Chuck Norris is a hunter, but Chuck Norris does not hunt. Hunting would imply the possibility of failure. There are 10 million people in the world of Warcraft because Chuck Norris allows them to live.
I'm Chuck Norris, and I approve this game.
World of Warcraft. Try it free at warcraft.com.
What's your game?
The grind for the time-lost proto-drake can get very tedious, and it may take weeks for you to see the mount. But what if I told you that there is a hidden spot where you can get a guaranteed spawn of that NPC that drops the mount? In Warlocks of Draenor Negrand, you can find a corpse of the time-lost proto-drake near the corpse of Kairos, the bronze dragon who brought Garrosh here. It is the exact same replica of the one you can find on Northrend, as if you have certain add-ons, it will display that this NPC can also drop the reins of the time-lost proto-drake. Now obviously, this is kind of a silly prank by me and Blizzard, but it being here could also be explained lore-wise. You see, there are tons of time-lost NPCs running around this area, so it would only make sense that the time-lost proto-drake would also be here. Oh, and another theory that some people have on the internet is that once the time-lost proto-drake disappears at the end of its spawn route, it gets teleported into another time dimension, so right here to Nagrand, and eventually dies. At the end of the day, it is probably just a joke on Blizzard's part for those who lost time hunting the Drake in Storm Peaks, but it's still interesting that almost any randomly placed object is somehow explainable through the lore. This character has probably survived more disastrous events than the player character at this point. Aerith Primrose is a reoccurring character who is an obvious reference to the character Aerith Gainsborough from Final Fantasy VII. She was in Wrath of the Lich King's Dalaran as a flower vendor, in Legion's Dalaran doing the same thing, and then once again in the War Within intro campaign where we try to defend Dalaran, seeing her laying on the ground seemingly stabbed by a massive blade. Luckily, it missed and we were able to evacuate her right before this happens. Up until the Midnight expansion, we didn't see her anymore, which made me think that she probably blew up with the rest of Dalaran, but I was wrong. She's now once again tending her flowers in Silvermoon, and this time she brought protection. Her trusty protector and bodyguard Koraud is also here, not leaving her out of his sight for even a second. And if you take a closer look, you will instantly recognize him as the main character of Final Fantasy VII, Cloud Strife. I don't know why his blade is on his hip though, it looks kinda weird, but she should be safe this time, surely. Ever wondered what happens to Ariel the Little Mermaid at the end of her movies? Obviously she gets washed ashore the Exiles Reach and dies, along with her trusty sidekick Sebastian. Alright, let's wind down a bit. On the shore of the Exiles Reach you can find a skeleton of what seems to be a mermaid with a crab right next to her laying dead on the beach. Inside the water right next to the two corpses you can also find Flounder, but that's not the only character we can find that had an unfortunate ending. On the way towards these corpses you can find a massive door with a skeleton holding a necklace on top. This is pretty obviously a reference to Rose from Titanic, who ends up on top of a door at the end of her story. There are tons more Easter eggs and corpses spread around Exiles Reach, so if you ever want to find out about the endings of more of your beloved characters, consider taking the time to explore the area a bit and let me know about your findings in the comments below. Ever wanted to go to Hogwarts? You're in luck, because I can show you the way, but the only way to get into Hogwarts is if you're playing a Dragthier or a Demon Hunter, as you will be needing some sort of a double jump to get there. After beating the first boss of the Grimrail Depot dungeon, go up these railings up until this point, and you will see a glowing white owl resembling Hedwig, Harry's owl, flying around the area. Go towards it, but ignore the owl's pathing and continue going all the way to the end of the wooden beam, until you find this card with a birdcage, a chest and a pointy wizard head, resembling Harry's card when he ran into the wall of platform 9 3/4 and entered the Hogwarts Express for the first time. If you look up to the top beam, you will see an engraving in Orcish that looks oddly familiar to the platform 9 3/4 sign. So all you have to do now is run against the wall and boom, you're through.
You're a wizard, Harry.
If you have any more Easter eggs I haven't mentioned yet, let me know down in the comments below. And while you're down there, consider liking and subscribing to my channel. It really helps out a ton, and that way you won't miss any of my future uploads. If you ever change your mind, you can always feel free to unsubscribe. Anyways, that's it from me, and I wish you guys a great rest of the day.